All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to NephCure's Ask the Expert webinar series. Tonight, we'll be talking about organizing and keeping track of medical records. My name is Kelly Helm, and I am the Manager of Patient Engagement for NephCure, and I also have a 10-year-old daughter who has been living with nephrotic syndrome, or FSGS, for about 7 years now. Before we get started here, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. I have everyone muted just to cut back on background noise. I would, however, love for this to be an interactive webinar so we can share ideas and ask questions. So if you have a question or a comment, feel free to either raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you're also welcome to type in your question. And you can find your toolbar generally up in the top right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar screen. Okay. And just as a reminder, NephCure's focus is to engage the broadest community of people and patients with nephrotic syndrome and FSGS, their caregivers, clinicians, scientists, and pharmaceutical industry to raise and leverage support for research, and hopefully that leads to better treatments and faster cures as well. All right, and throughout our webinar this evening, we will be learning about the importance of compiling personal health records. We will talk a little bit about what to compile and the different options that we have. We'll go through and take a look at some of our printable resources on NephCure's website that are there to help you stay organized. And then we'll talk about some helpful links to e-medical tools, apps for your mobile devices. And I also wanted to let everyone know that I will email out this PowerPoint presentation after the webinar this evening, so don't feel like you have to jot everything down quickly. Just go ahead and sit back and listen, and I will go ahead and email this out afterwards. And also it will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel with the rest of our Ask the Expert webinar series. All right, so let's dive right in. And we'll talk a little bit about why a personal health record is helpful. First of all, it helps you, family members, and caretakers stay up to date and organized. I think we've all kind of realized the importance of staying organized, just the amount of work it is to manage either yourself or a child with nephrotic syndrome. And I often say that this diagnosis should come with a personal administrative assistant. So this is kind of one of the things that admin could really help with. But it just helps stay organized and up to date on your care. Also provides a place to record day-to-day symptoms and health tracking tools. If you're keeping track of proteinuria or blood pressure, that type of thing. It also gives doctors a complete and accurate picture of what's been going on with the patient, especially if they're a new doctor, so that they can provide the best possible care. But also if you are tracking symptoms, you can show that information to your current doctor so you can work together to make important decisions. It allows you yourself, the patient or the parent or caretaker, time to read and understand reports and treatment summaries at home, just because a lot of times I think being at the doctor goes quickly and you kind of are rushed sometimes, or just not completely able to focus. And this gives you a chance to kind of look back and revisit what was said during your visits. It also provides important treatment details that you may not remember later on. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, just kind of with my own experience there. And it also helps better manage health insurance claims or legal matters should they arise. You have documentation that you can easily pull up and provide if you have to file an appeal or that type of thing. All right. And just to answer a quick question, yes, my name is Kelly Helm. And again, I'm the Manager of Patient Engagement with NephCure. Okay, on to our next slide. There's several different types of personal health records, and it kind of depends on each individual what works best for you. You can keep a binder or a notebook. You can keep track of health records on your computer, whether it's software that's on your computer or you use a web-based service. And then also you can keep track of it via applications on your iPads, phone, or tablets. And we'll kind of, in a little while, to kind of talk about the pros and cons to each of these, and maybe also talk about how you can maybe use a little bit of each. All right, so what to include in your personal health records? Before we dive into this, it's important to remember that there are no set rules for your personal health record because it is your personal health record and nobody else's. And every patient kind of has a different set of needs or different things that they're watching, and you can kind of set that up however is most helpful to you. So in general, we'll just talk about probably best practices for either a notebook or an online personal health record is for sure to include a diagnosis, including the stage of chronic kidney disease. And if you're unsure of what that means, please shoot me a quick note and I can send you a link to the stages of chronic kidney disease. But basically there's 5 stages, and each stage kind of describes the overall health of the patient in regards to their kidney health and how their body is managing with the chronic kidney disease. It's important that you include the date of your diagnosis. I think it's important to include copies of your most recent labs, or if your most recent labs are kind of wacky or off, to include what your baseline lab values might be. That can be important, like if you head into the ER and you're seeing an ER doctor for the first time. They'll often ask you, what's your baseline creatinine? What is your baseline value for labs? And if you have that information in your health records, you won't have to recall it right off the bat. But it also just gives them a clear picture of what's going on and how off things are at that moment. You can also include diagnostic test results such as a biopsy pathology report, or if you've done genetic testing, the results from that. Again, you can kind of give or take from this point on. Those are kind of the main things, but you also want to include your list of medications and the dosage of those medications and the frequency, especially if you're on more than just a handful of medications. It's really helpful to have that list. I know when I walk into the ER with my daughter, I like to just hand them the list so that they can then go and input that in the computer, and it just kind of helps intake process a little bit, helps the intake process go a little bit faster, but also ensures that they're getting the correct information. Also, you want to include the side effects that you're experiencing with any medications that you're on, the allergies that you have to certain medications, and what the side effects or what your reaction was to those medications. And if you're able to, the start and end dates of medications, especially if you are currently weaning off of a medication like prednisone. Sometimes that's not vital information, but it definitely can be helpful. And it's nice to have your contact information for all of your doctors. And it might be a good idea to keep information from past doctors if you've moved on, just in case you need to go back and contact them for any reason. All right. Probably the best way to compile your personal health record is to collect all of this information on an ongoing basis. But if you've been dealing with chronic kidney disease for some time, for instance several years, that can be kind of overwhelming to think about starting a personal health record. So it might be best to just start compiling information from today forward. Then you can always go back and add to it and play catch up with important information as you have time. And also, whenever you have a doctor's appointment, you can ask. They should be giving you a treatment summary when you check out. Any lab reports or any new information that they're adding to your file or your electronic medical record. You may also want to write notes down after a clinic visit or any sort of test that you're doing. You can always ask for a procedure report. And if you're in the hospital, before you leave, you can ask the hospital also to give you a copy of your medical records. Sometimes it's easiest just to get them right then and there. Or, they also should be giving you a discharge summary. That's always kind of nice to include in your personal health record. The discharge summaries usually talk about why you were there, what was done while you were there, and also lists the current medications that you're on and the dosages. And most hospitals now are using electronic medical records, so you can always log on to you or your child's file and print these items off later as well. Any questions or comments so far? Okay. Additional helpful information that you can include. You can include the date and details of past surgeries and complications of those surgeries if you've had them. Sometimes it's nice to note if you had a hard time coming out of anesthesia or if your child struggled with anesthesia. And if that's the case, definitely note what type of medications they were given. And that way for future surgeries, you can let the anesthesiologist know exactly what you believe was causing difficulty. And you can also include hospitalizations and the treatments that you received. Did you receive albumin and Lasix or diuretics? What percentage of albumin, how much, IV antibiotics, that type of thing. Again, we talked a little bit about appointment and hospital discharge summaries. Those are actually really good tools to look back on at later dates. You can include your immunization records. If you have any major illnesses, strep throat, pneumonia, that type of thing, it might be nice to keep track of that, or any chronic conditions aside from your nephrotic syndrome or FSGS. All right. Another great thing to include in your health record are daily logs or a symptom journal. A lot of times, if if you're relapsing, you are to be dipping your urine every morning. A great way to keep track of this is through a proteinuria log. If you're struggling with blood pressure, you can also keep track of that. There's apps out there specifically for blood pressure, where NephCure is actually working on a nephrotic syndrome app, and I'm certain that there will be a way to track proteinuria on that app. But NephCure also on our website has printable options. So I'm going to shoot over to our website here and kind of show you. If you click on our website, this is our Living with Kidney Disease tab, and here we are under Managing Your Care, and then Kidney Health Tracking Tools. A lot of this information is already on our website actually, but we do have printable tracking tools for you that you can click on and print off. So for example, if you're keeping track of your relapsing and your doctor wants to keep track of your weight and the protein in your urine, here's a simple way to stick this in the bathroom and fill it out every morning, your weight and your protein, and any notes, whether you notice anything funny about the urine, it's extra foamy or has a weird color, that type of thing. And then you can also up here kind of write down the parameters. So a lot of times the doctor will say, call me if you have 3 days of 2+ in your urine, and that's considered a relapse. Or call me when you're negative for 3 days, and we'll start weaning prednisone. So this is just a tool we have for you to kind of help decrease the stress of the day-to-day. We also have a blood pressure log. We have a medication chart. And we're always adding to this as we also have the medication weaning calendar. A lot of times doctors will provide this, but if they don't, this is also nice to keep track of, and especially if you're frequently relapsing, or even if you're not, it's nice to keep track of your medication weaning schedule and stick that in your personal health record so that the next time you relapse, or even if you relapse years down the road, you can look back on that and see, what worked and what didn't work. And you can kind of make comparisons and also make changes based upon your past. Thank you for letting me know there's a typo in one of our documents. All right, so next, let's go back here to our PowerPoints. We have a daily, we talked about the daily log and symptoms journal. Also, it's nice to include information about alternative therapies that you're using or palliative care. You can include diet information or any nutritional support you're receiving from a dietitian. If you're seeing the chiropractor or an occupational therapist, you can stick in, or physical therapy for that matter, if you are doing certain activities to help gain strength. You can stick those sheets in your personal health record and look back on them. You can also include a quick family medical history, and always encourage people to kind of keep copies of any medical bills, referrals, appeal letters. It's always nice if you write one appeal letter to keep that in your binder or on your computer, so that if you do need to write an appeal letter later on, you can refer back to that, because those can kind of be a little complicated. Okay, and we have a quick question on under what heading do we find this information on the site? Again, it is, if you go to our main page, nephcure.org, let me go back there really quick here. It's hard for me to scroll with this toolbar. It's under living with kidney disease and managing your care. And then down here under kidney health tracking tools. Okay. Any comments, questions? Here we talked a little bit more about keeping logs. An important thing I feel is to keep track of your symptoms, because I feel like you can reference back on that a lot. As you do this for years and years and years, everything kind of just starts to blend together, and it's hard to keep everything in your head. I've tried it, and I'm not so good at it anymore. I used to be able to keep it straight, but now I find myself asking, I can't quite remember when that happened or how that happened. So it's nice just to keep a quick journal of symptoms, whether you just do that on a sheet of paper or an app on your phone. But just note how often, like for instance, if your child's having leg pains. I know a lot of kids suffer from leg pains, and the doctors tend not to believe that they're a result of the nephrotic syndrome, but you can keep track of that. How intense are the symptoms? Does something seem to trigger that certain symptom? And then you can kind of look over time and see if you can figure out any patterns and attribute it to something specific. Oh wow, Suzanne, I'm going to share one of the members on the webinar has been doing this for just a few years, since 1977. So I cannot imagine trying to recall things that far back. I can't even do it for a couple of years. So a great thing too, when we're talking about keeping logs, there are apps for most everything listed here, and generally the apps will stick the data and chart it for you, and provide, like a bar graph or a line graph or something to show you trends. And that's always good information to have, and maybe help you realize what's going on or how to make something better, or if action needs to be taken. So, and again, you can find all these sheets on our website. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the pros and cons of the different kinds of personal health records. First, we'll talk about a binder or a notebook. So the obvious pros is that you can arrange it to your liking and grab it and go. If you're headed to clinic or the ER, it's right there. You can store original copies of important documents. It's inexpensive, and you can start it at any time. So Suzanne, you could start it today if you wanted. The cons may be it's hard to transport as it gets larger and larger and larger. I know when my daughter had paper files at her nephrology clinic, she was on her 6th that would list file 6 of 6, or so. It just gets to be quite a lot sometimes with a binder. If the binder isn't organized, it can be stressful. It can be hard to locate things. And there's always a chance that you lose it or it becomes damaged in some way. So organizing your binder, again, you can organize it the best way that fits your style. You can organize it by date or by category, but do be sure to include dates on everything. Otherwise, it can get unorganized quickly. Or you can organize by category and then date. It's helpful to use dividers and label those to keep things organized, and it also allows you to find things quickly. And it's important to be consistent, I think. everyone gets in a rut and just starts piling things up, and next thing you know, you have piles of paperwork to file away. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're consistent with where you put it and keep it organized and filed so that you don't get too far behind and it becomes overwhelming. Right, next you have electronic records, and this can be a software-based program. It can also be a web-based program. The pros are obviously less paperwork than a binder, no chance of water or fire damage. You can access it anywhere if you can connect to the internet or a computer, and it can be easy to share with others if necessary. You see this med stick down here. These have become really popular because they even have bracelets now that you can just load all the vital information onto a jump drive and carry it with you. The only problem is if you don't have access to a computer. The cons of electronic records is possible security issues, especially if somebody hacks your computer or you're using a web-based service and they're hacked and their firewalls are breached. Relies on internet and a computer for access, so sometimes it's hard to have internet access in the hospital, or you don't always have your computer. It can be hard to access during clinic and hospital visits, and if it's software-based on your computer, it requires frequent backup, so you can lose it the same as a binder if you don't back it up. And here's just a few options. All of these are listed on our website, and again, I will email out this PowerPoint. It went through and really tried to find like the top 3 or 5 with good reviews. This Insider My Kidney guide is actually created by University of Michigan, and so it's through their website, but anybody can register to use it. My Health is a program that many, many hospitals and clinics are using, and I got this link off of another kidney page, but this one is, when I asked around, probably about 30% of people are using My Health because that's what their clinicians are linked to, so they can log on and print it off. There's this kind of health IT government initiative that you can take a look at. Microsoft Health Vault is a software-based program, and again, here are just a few others, and you can kind of check them all out. Some of them are free, some of them cost, and some of them have a free and a cost version. Again, you need to stay organized with these programs. Many of them will help you stay organized, but if you're doing it just on your computer, make different folders, but keep them all in one place. Again, as you save documents, make sure you save them with a good labeled names, and to help you find things quickly, you can use the search feature on your computer if you label them or name them appropriately. All right, so mobile apps have obviously become more and more popular, and we're just going to, basically the same pros and cons of the electronic. One pro that I want to point out is that obviously they're very portable and convenient. Many are specified for certain purposes. We talked a little bit about tracking your blood pressure through an app. You can track your nutrition through another app. You can journal through Evernote. So there's not necessarily one comprehensive app unless you're going to use some of these web-based programs actually have apps. And again, they chart trends for you so you can see them visually quickly. Again, I said many electronic health programs offer apps. A few cons is sometimes they're hard to customize. Many of them are still in development or they're launched before they're completely thought out. There's obviously potential for charges and glitches and loss of information. As I was looking through a complete personal health record app, there are some out there, but I would encourage you to read through comments and ratings because several of them that I read through, multiple people were completely losing all of their information. So they basically spent all this time logging their information and relying on this app, and next thing they know, it's gone in a poof, and there's no getting it back. So just proceed with caution with apps, I feel. And again, it's difficult to share information except visually if you're in a clinic or hospital setting. All right, so here's a couple of apps that are out there that you can use. And again, these are on our website. ImBlueButton, there's actually a web-based program as well. And healthcare professionals can have access to this information if you give them permission. My Medical, you can track lab and test results. And data is stored onto your device for extra security and not just floating out there in a cloud. So again, you just need to compare and figure out which app you're most comfortable with. Again, on our website, we have a list of helpful apps that aren't necessarily for tracking your personal health record as a whole, but can help with pieces of that. Let me shoot over there here real quick. Oops. Back on our under Living with Kidney Disease, there's your printable tracking tools. Here's that tracking tool brought to you by University of Michigan, the Insider I was talking about. And then here we have helpful mobile apps. And many of these apps are for specific items like diet and nutrition. Kidney Appetite gives daily summaries. You can use a pocket dietitian that's actually created by a nephrologist that allows you to choose things based on your restrictions. So there's kind of a lot of different apps. Healthy Out enables you to search and order healthy food and keep an eye on your dietary restrictions. There's medication apps that help you track your medications. Drugs.com is a great comprehensive one where you can list all your meds. You can look up what a pill looks like. Say if you dropped a pill or got mixed up, you can look up what they look like. There's a pill reminder app to help you take your meds on time. There's several of those. And there's renal labs apps, a GFR calculator, and the smart medical labs help you reference lab values and information on your diagnostic tests and procedures. So there's just a few additional apps to help you maybe better organize your information. And again, here's the link to get to those. So do we have any questions or comments for that matter? What have you done that works? Any specific questions? I'm happy to answer those. Thank you. And if you think of something after the webinar, go ahead and shoot me an email I'd be happy to address that. Real quick before we sign off, I do want to remind everyone of our upcoming webinars and symposiums. Our next Ask the Expert webinar will be on September 28th, and we'll be talking about working and chronic illness. And then also on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see our last 3 or 4, I guess, Regional Nephrotic Syndrome Symposium series are taking place. We have Seattle and Philadelphia on September 30th. New York, we have a symposium on November 4th, and Miami on December 3rd. And we should be releasing our 2017 symposium cities in the next couple months. All right, well, I want to thank everyone for your time, and I really appreciate you joining us this evening. I hope that you found some of this information helpful, and I wish you all well in organizing the chaos that it can be nephrotic syndrome and FSGS, but I hope this information helps a little and relieves some stress in your journey, and thanks again for attending.